So we're coming up on the 48-hour mark of the infamous Sunday Connecticut Sun versus the Indiana Fever game. Bria Hartley, the Connecticut Sun, who by the way are like 6-27, a really bad team, um, looked to me like she took a very intentional dive at Sophie Cunningham's knees. I called that out in real time. At halftime, I made a rare halftime video for a Fever game. I've been following the Fever for the last 2 years since Caitlin Clark joined them, and even this year, in most of the games when she's been out with injury, I'm still, talking about them, watching the games, because I've really, drawn attached to a lot of these players, a lot of Caitlin's teammates, and people that I've grown to really like just because of who they are. One of them, Sophie. We got her this year, and she's played with a ton of heart, a ton of pride in her teammates, and somebody that I've really grown to like. She's also developed a bounty on her head for standing up for her teammates in the wake of just the way the WNBA plays, which is basically what I want to talk about in this video. I called this out in real time. I made a when it was still at halftime, we were looking like trash, like we were going to lose to the worst team in the league, which is Connecticut Center, the worst team in the league, 6-27, worst record by far, or maybe a few teams are kind of close, but I mean they came and beat Chicago, the Chicago Sky, who are, we in our injured state can beat in our sleep. Everything about that looked intentional to me, and I made a video about it. And the more and more that comes out, the more we're realizing it. At the time I called it out, we only had the broadcast. We didn't have any kind of slow motion, and I could tell that's one of the things I could tell in my almost 2 years now of watching this league because of Caitlin and watching the Fever, that there were some things that stood out, some patterns that have stood out. Sophie got dove at, or somebody fell into her knee. Well, immediately my suspicion radar went off the roof because this is a league. It's not a physical league. It's a dirty league. There's a lot of dirty play between people, amongst people that are very, very broken inside, which is something else I'll talk about here in a second. And they didn't really show any replays. And they showed one, and it was a far angle from, you didn't get a great look at it, but even then I could tell. I'm like, she was falling. She saw Sophie, and basically you could see her looking at her knee and just kind of dove and kind of put her shoulder into it, and everything about that looked intentional. From what I know about the league, I didn't even put together two and two that it was Bria Hartley, who's been involved in a lot of incidents this year, and I'll talk about her and just how pathetic her career's been in a pathetic league, the pathetic league that is the WNBA. Gosh, I want to see people like Caitlin Clark and Sophie and Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull, and I want to see all these people just leave and go to Europe, go to some team and say, hey, we're going to be your team. Here's a package deal for all of us. And man, whoever has the streaming rights for that would make a killing. They could charge whatever they wanted, and people like me would pay for it. But to me, everything about that, no matter who it was, I would have thought that was intentional, just because I don't trust hardly anybody in the league. As it turns out, it's Bria Hartley. She's been involved in quite a few incidents this year. She basically, I think it was against Seattle, and Skylar Diggins just body checked her for no reason. She was one of like three defenders back, and Skylar was up ahead of her teammates, and she just body checked her to the ground, which is crazy. And then she had a couple incidents against Chicago, the other worst team in the league. Angel Reese of all people, had like two really long braided ponytails, and she's going up for a rebound, and Bria just grabbed him. Now she didn't just grab her Angel Reese's ponytail. She like wrapped it around her hand and grasped on it, and of course Angel immediately got in her face and she backed down, because that's another theme you'll see, is her backing down from these issues. She starts stuff and then doesn't want anything to do with it. She had another incident against the Chicago Sky with Rebecca Allen. Rebecca beat her fair and square to try to get the rebound. Somebody else got the rebound, so she just grabbed Rebecca, threw her to the ground, and started grabbing her shoulder, like scratching at her. I mean, you talk about cat fights and living up to all the stereotypes. I mean, women deserve better than what the WNBA has shown, because the WNBA presents themselves as representing women, representing everything that is women, and what you're seeing is not what 95% of the women, at least in America, are all about. We're not talking about people that are this severely broken and, trying to just going out there and causing trouble because they can. Despite the stereotype, none of them, very few of them are like this. And a lot of them seem to find their way into women's basketball, but that's another story for another day. But it was funny because she's leaning over Rebecca Allen, yelling at her, and they're trying to break her up. Well, Errol Atkins of the Chicago Sky comes running in to confront her, and Bria Hartley backs up. I mean, she wants nothing to do with that. Hides behind. I mean, you can see her literally like hide behind the official. I know the officials are trying to get between them, but Bria Hartley made sure the official was there, stepped back, waited until they'd gotten Errol Atkins a proper distance away from her, then started jawing at her. I mean, Bria Hartley is just. First of all, she's not a good player. This is her 10th season. She started in 2014. There's like 3 or 4 seasons she didn't even play at all. I don't know if she was going overseas or probably didn't have any good offers in the WNBA. And then came back this year for the crappy Connecticut Sun. They're probably the only team that wants her. She's averaging less than 10 points a game, like 3 rebounds, 3 assists per game. Just, it's a pretty pathetic career. Like I said, in the situation, Sophie looked intentional, and there's a picture out there that's been floating around. People made videos on it. It's going to be my thumbnail zoomed in on her. She's smiling. After she hits her, she looks up and she's smiling, very satisfied seeing Sophie in pain. How broken do you have to be inside to injure, not hurt, injure? I was thinking it was a torn ACL, and it still might be. I mean, we've not heard anything. There's supposedly an MRI yesterday, so I haven't heard anything from that. So I don't know if they're trying to figure out what's going on or doing more MRIs or more testing. But, it was pretty obvious she had done something serious. And she's smiling. That made her happy. Seeing somebody in pain from an unnecessary cheap shot made her happy. You can laugh all you want, Bria Hartley, but at the end of the day, you are a broken human being. To look at that, you're broken, and that's all there is to it. And afterwards, you saw Sophie in the locker room smiling. She'd been taken out. Who knows what her future is, but her team had a big comeback. And I know I talked about that, but they had a big comeback, a big win, probably a season-saving win as far as making it to the playoffs. Or they'll probably get swept, but that's another story. And she's smiling because something good happened. So, who's the real winner and the real loser in this? You can say, well, Bree did her job. She took her out. Well, guess what? Bree's going to have to. Nothing really changes for her. Whatever is broken inside of her is still broken. And, the joy that Sophie has in her life continues. Even if it is an ACL and she has to get that fixed, she's going to go through the rehab, get it fixed, and come back. And if she's not 100%, she's going to do what she can, and she's still going to go about living her life and enjoying it. She has a very lucrative life outside the WNBA. This podcast of hers is blowing up already. We've had like 2 or 3 episodes, and it's already, probably the most talked about podcast in sports currently. Because, she's out there talking about the stuff that no other active athlete's talking about. By the time all this stuff gets talked about, it's well after they're retired. And it's like, I think I kind of remember that. But she's talking about it in real time. The Phoenix Mercury deal with DeWanna Bonner and, getting fined and all this stuff. So she's doing good. She's a winner in life, and Bria Hartley is a loser in life. And I hope she gets the help. I really do. First of all, before she hurts anybody else, but secondly for her, because like I said, to walk around with whatever burden she's carrying, that burden of just being broken and loving it when people are hurt because you've hurt them. If that's all you have to offer and that's all that makes you happy, you have issues. And I hope she gets it together. I hope she gets her life together. But it's just such another stain on this WNBA. We're trying to give it a chance. There's so many people in the WNBA to like and respect and people that I want to watch, but the overall product, you throw everybody together and you just see a lot of people that are, just like I said, just very broken, very unhappy. I know I made a long video talking about Diana Taurasi because of her new documentary. But the takeaway from that whole thing was she's very unhappy. Diana Taurasi is not happy. She is. She just had a 21-year professional career, 20 of which in the WNBA. Before that, she had an amazing 4-year career at UConn. She had a great high school career in, I think it was Southern California, if I remember right. She lived the dream. She lived her dream. Everything she worked for, she got to live it and then some. Played 20 years in the WNBA, 21 years total professionally because she took a year off to play professional for Russia. Made a lot of money. She can talk about the money all she wants. She made money and doing what she loved for a living. And here she is at the end of it, and all she's doing is complaining. I mean, obviously, look, things in life are going to happen that, they're not all going to go your way. She's in there talking about money and all that, but she got to live her dream. At some point, you just have to sit back and be grateful for what you have, and she has a lot to be grateful for. She lived her dream, and she's just making a documentary whining about everything. And that's just, to me, that's just a lot of what the WNBA attracts. It attracts a lot of amazing people, too. And like I said, I'm keeping watching it because I want to see those people. I want to see those people succeed. But it just seems like there's a lot of people that don't want anybody else to have fun. They're not having fun, so they don't want anybody else to have fun. They don't want these new fans like me to have fun watching it, which I don't understand. I mean, we're sitting here. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what's going to make you real money, not, the NBA owners are giving you charity money. Because that's all that is. They can spend any way they want to. They're just getting charity money at this point. Or not at this point, but for their entire existence. For Diana's entire career, because if they ever do become profitable off the shoulders of Caitlin Clark and other likable people that have been put in the team with her or were already on the team, like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, and now people like Sophie Cunningham, we're going to, these are the people that are going to be the ones making, truly earning the money. So it's tough to see, and I know, that there's this potential investigation coming down the pike. I made a video about that. Basically a guy who's, pretty big deal in Washington was talking about it, that people like Caitlin Clark could have a civil rights case that could be brought, federally against the WNBA and its players. He's not somebody who I think would be just saying that for the heck of it. We're talking about somebody who's worked for President Trump, worked for Ted Cruz. Regardless of your opinions of those people, and you're perfectly acceptable in either opinion, those are big deal. Those guys, that they understand how to get stuff done, how to get attention, and he runs a lobbyist group. I mean, they say it, that we lobby lawmakers in Congress, and he's been hired by companies like AT&T, Amazon, Anheuser-Busch. I mean, some of the biggest companies out there have hired him and paid millions of dollars for him to lobby on their behalf. So if he's saying it, there's something there. And like I said, I've been pretty open. I don't want to see the government get involved. I don't see the government get involved I want to see them get involved in as little as possible. That's just my opinion on that. I'd like to see us stop wasting tax money. But don't be surprised if it comes. If it does come, if it helps us get rid of people like Bria Hartley, you know what? I don't want to say it was worth it, but, there at least something was worth it. It's time to clean this up. It's time to call not just the WNBA and Kathy Engelbert, but it's time to call the NBA, who's been funding this, on the carpet. It's time to call Adam Silver up there. And it's time for them, first of all, to sit in front of Congress, and Congress needs to have them tell them what exactly is your financial situation. How much per year, I want a chart and I want a graph, how much per year have you paid to keep these WNBA teams afloat, to keep the WNBA itself afloat? And also, if you're paying this money, since without you guys this league doesn't exist, what are you going to do? As Luke, he's been a pest all morning. I love this cat. He's been a pest. But, what are you going to do about this? Why are you not stepping in and doing something? Because ultimately, without you guys, this league folds. You guys say we're not funding you, it's done. So, part of me would like to see that. To me, that's an accountability they should have to start with, but they don't. And, I would like to see a lot more transparency. To me, we're seeing things like, even with this Caitlin Clark injury, I feel like the league and the Fever are being, intentionally tight-lipped about it to prevent people from saying okay, I'm done. I think they want to kind of keep us on the hook. They don't want to say, okay, she's done for 2 months. It's like, all right, I'll be back in 2 months. I think they're afraid of that. They certainly don't want to say if she's out for the year, it's be like, all right, I'll see you in May of 2026. So it's just a mess. And like I said, just they need to change the culture. Absolutely, they need to make it where broken people like Bria Hartley are not going to be, um, they're not going to be out there, um, causing trouble, messing up for people that just want to go out there and play and compete. And ain't that what sports is all about? Playing and competing. I mean, this is stuff even the Detroit Pistons, the bad boy era, would, they didn't do stuff like this. I don't never remember seeing them diving at people's legs and, pulling hair and just shoving them to the ground like Asia Wilson did. I think it was Michaela McBride on the Lynx. One of the president of the WNBA's Players Association, one of the Agumales, I can't remember if it's Enrique or Neke. I mean, she had a play like that, and it's just like, you people have no emotional control, and you're in a league that promotes that and protects that. That is very much about making sure that you have this opportunity with your complete lack of emotional control to go out there and just do what you want, to act on those impulses and hurt somebody. So, ready to see changes, really am. Ready to see the Bria Hartleys and the J.C. Sheldons of the world kicked away, but that's going to be hard because, like I said, we're expanding. And we're going to need more people. We need as many people as possible. Who knows? Is Bria Hartley on a team this year if we don't have the new Golden State Valkyries? I mean, the WNBA is not in a place where they need to be expanding. They need to be contracting, if anything. But that's just kind of where we're at. So hopefully something gets done. Hopefully we don't have to worry about this. Hopefully Sophie can come back and do something. Maybe her and Caitlin come back and the Fever catch fire and make a big playoff run. Make a deep playoff run. Maybe upset one of these teams and, maybe make it to what would be the conference finals, but the semifinals or something like that. But or at least win the first round. Who knows? But we'll see. Kind of doubt it. But the WNBA, that they need a big culture change. They want to get paid. They want us to pay attention, but they want us to do it under their terms. No, we're the ones paying the money, and if y'all want to continue to be looked at, you're gonna have to do it under our terms. So, just how it goes. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.